It's time again for Talking Trade, sponsored by MMAC's World Trade Association and Michael Best Strategies.
Welcome to Talking Trade. I'm Sandi Siegel, president of MEDAY.
And I'm Ken Wasylik, Managing Director of EM Wasylik & Associates, a international business development company. Well, we're really pleased to have Heather Ranck as the Rural Export Center Director, part of the U.S. Commerce Department, to be our guest today. She's located in Fargo, North Dakota, and has been working with U.S.-based exporters for nearly 20 years, mostly with smaller companies in rural communities. As we know, rural communities tend to have challenges that maybe are not faced by others in larger communities or larger cities. Access to those foreign markets, some limitations on transportation, broadband connectivity, which has been definitely in the news over the last couple of years, attracting labor talent. And so we asked Heather to join us today and just tell us a little bit more about the Rural Export Center. So welcome, Heather, to Talking Trade.
Thank you, Ken. It's great to be here.
Great.
Yeah. Do you want to give
So let's start off and just talk about you and I met in Washington last year at the National District Export Council conference, which was attended by over 61 different councils around the U.S. Really talked about the Rural Export Center. So tell us more about it and how it was formed and your activities.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. The Rural Export Center is a national research center for exporters, and we were created in 2020. And our main focus is market research tools to help rural exporters overcome the challenges that keep them from exporting more proactively. We are based in Fargo, North Dakota, and I had piloted research methodologies for about 10 years, and the local business community saw the value in that approach of being strategic and data-driven. So we garnered support from the congressional delegation from North Dakota and Minnesota, but the research center is national. So the main idea is that there are three main barriers to exporting for rural exporters: knowledge, connections, and confidence. And you can use data to tackle all three of those. You can build confidence, you can build connections and knowledge. And we tie in our global network of staff that are at the U.S. embassies and consulates around the world with the U.S. Commercial Service to help tackle those three barriers.
Wow, that's amazing and really timely, obviously in 2020, and a lot of people, we were even all more spread out than we had been previously. So great service for people in that area. So I can appreciate the why and the importance of serving the rural community. Can you give us some examples of success stories and how you've made the connections and been a resource for those communities?
Yeah, we're very responsive to the needs of companies. So we're constantly evolving new services, and all of these services we're constantly tweaking and changing. The main things we do is country selection. One of our big products we call a matrix, where we rank all the countries of the world based on a company's specific needs, whether it's wastewater management or aviation. My agency spends over $1 million a year on databases. We spend an additional 50,000+ a year because those are expensive for rural companies. You're not going to subscribe to all these databases or know how to use them. So we tap into them, and our typical report will have over 100 footnotes, very well resourced. The other main thing companies need is actual buyers, connections. So we can use our research and uncover a list. Usually it's around 10 contacts per country. So you start with a worldwide analysis, you choose 6 countries, we reach out to our global network to confirm that they agree that there's a market. We get feedback from them, we kind of put that into the process, and then the company selects 3 countries. We do research on those, we try to find industry information and also potential contacts, buyers, distributors. Out of that, we have 2 new services that have come about in just the last few months. One is background checks. One of the most common things companies have contacted me about is this random company contacting me through my email legit? and we can run them through all our databases and see, hey, do they look good, medium, or bad? We kind of do a report. Costs $150. We also can do an analysis of a company's website to see how global their website is, how globally friendly, and then we can provide some specific recommendations on improvements. And then our most recent service that Ken would know a lot about is an export management company directory. A lot of the companies, especially rural companies, everyone wants to export, but it's kind of hard and complicated. So for a lot of companies, it would be much better and easier and more efficient and more likely that they would export if they partner with a third party who does that for you. And we have identified over 50 export management companies around the country, and many of them have very specific niches that they cover, and then we're connecting them. So we're building a directory, and then we're giving companies a lot of choices of companies that they might be able to partner with, and it's just a new angle, but something very interesting.
Yeah,
Well, that's really interesting, Heather. You mentioned that you're based in North Dakota, in the Dakotas and Minnesota. This is the genesis of the Rural Export Center, but you said it was national. So how does a company, let's say in Tennessee or Nebraska, be able to tap into those various services that you just explained?
We have an email, rural@trade.gov, that kind of is an intro. We always involve our local staff. We have about 100 offices around the US where they're the local person. So we would include them. And then we just have a simple intake form, usually just to understand what your needs and wants are. We cover any industry. We've done aviation, we've done vitamins, we've done, sometimes people think that it's rural, that it's only agriculture, but actually we can cover any industry. And we actually have a Wisconsin example. Ventris Learning is a company that does early childhood education curricula.
Oh, yeah.
And we help them identify countries. We leaned toward English speaking countries because you don't want to have to translate your curricula over and over. And we identified some potential partners, and they ended up signing a partnership with a company in Australia that was identified and was confirmed as a potential partner in the report. So a good Wisconsin example.
That's terrific. Some really valuable resources. So I appreciate it's certainly not just agriculture, in the rural areas. But have you seen any particular trends, especially post-COVID and in the changing economy and so forth, that have been reaching out for
Yes,
service?
we have served companies from, we're probably up to 40 industries now. We've done over 250 reports, but the ones that we have just phenomenal data for, we've done a lot of reports for consumer products, sporting goods, agricultural machinery, aviation, education, international education, and food are some that I just have been real successful projects for us. Actually, even in weapons, we've had several successes there with that as well. But it can go from wastewater treatment, construction machinery, cosmetics, any industry. We can do a free evaluation to determine what kind of data we actually have, so the company knows going in whether we have good data for their industry or not.
It's fascinating and very useful. And there's a lot of moving parts, as we all know on this call, to exporting, and the security piece, the screening piece, validation, and those are all really helpful as you enter the unknown world of exporting. So yeah, what a valuable resource for the community. That's terrific. Great.
I'm just kind of curious. You mentioned that export management companies could be an easy first step for some exporters, U.S. exporters. Is there particular industries that are more apt to EMCs than others?
We found that there's a lot in food and beverage, especially alcoholic beverages. It's hard for a microbrew, and there's a lot of microbreweries popping up. Another Wisconsin specialty, right?
Right.
And so there are some companies out there that specialize in, certain beers, wines, spirits, then a lot of grocery items that, we have a pretty diverse food. You go to the grocery store and you're just overwhelmed with our variety. So there's some demand internationally, but it can be cost prohibitive to do it on a one-off basis. So the EMC model, Export Management Company, really makes sense. Sporting goods is another one, construction machinery, and sometimes it's very high value, very specialized products. So it's not just food and like consumer products, but it's really pretty just across the board.
I think there's, as you say, there's some specialty items and smaller volumes where a distributorship or a third party really helps give access to the market for some of these people. And we have as well have seen some success that way.
It's the learning curve that is daunting to a lot of companies.
Right.
So the fact, and there have been numerous projects in the last 2 months where we did the whole research process. The company was very grateful, but it's still pretty daunting to, get on the plane to go over.
Yes.
And when you can tie in with somebody who's very comfortable in that world, it's very attractive to a lot of companies we're finding. So we're here, my agency's mission is to increase exports. So if boosting and supporting export management companies can help achieve that, then we're getting behind that.
That's terrific.
Great.
Thank you. We're running out of time. Really exciting, great resources, and certainly something we'll share with our customers, and really valuable resources. So thank you for joining us, Heather, to Talking Trade.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Talking Trade, sponsored by MMAC's World Trade Association and Michael Best Strategies.